Hi. Hello.
Patrick Bateman.
Peter Michaels. Have you seen today's guest play music before?
No, I don't believe I have.
Are
honestly.
you sure?
Well, I was trying to think because I know right around, like, I can't remember if we had him in at the station or not.
No.
We didn't?
So.
Okay.
No.
Because that would have been Royal Tusk came in. Our guest today opened for Royal Tusk in February of 2020.
Was it 2020?
Very close to the shutdown. And I remember Royal Tusk coming in because we had our afternoon guy on the station made hummus as a side project, and Royal Tusk loved the shit out of his hummus. So I don't even think they cared to come in for the interview. I think they came in specifically just to grab that. But I couldn't remember if our guest today came in at that point.
He didn't, and I was thinking about it today that we were also supposed to trying to book a station visit from Sights and Sounds, who are also on that tour. Sights and Sounds frontman is Andrew Neufeld, who's also in Comeback Kid.
Right.
And I was out of town. It was a Sunday show, I think. And I was out of town for some reason, so we couldn't organize anything. But no, I don't believe Broken Love, a.k.a. Justin Benlolo.
There's the reveal. No more. No
today's
teasing,
guest, who called us from the road.
From the road.
Has that happened?
No, it hasn't. And I'm not going to lie. The whole time I was like, this isn't going to work.
Yeah, I was getting a little sketched out.
Yeah,
about halfway, three quarters of the way through.
I think there's one spot where he
couple spots
freezes up.
Yeah.
But technology can sometimes be your friend and pull through. And in this,
well,
case
it's also
did.
funny too because at one point he admits that they were listening to music in the van at the same time as the interview.
That's right. Yeah,
but I couldn't hear it.
I never heard it.
So yes, technology has come a long way. Today's guest, Broken Love, who was in town last night.
Last night, yes. I don't know when we record these things. So this episode is coming out the day after a show in Red Deer at the Memorial Center with Big Wreck and Monster Truck.
Right.
It was an amazing show.
Yeah.
It was like one of the best ever.
Yes. I was there last night.
The Memorial Center is a fantastic place to experience a rock and roll. Actually,
I've only ever seen one show there. It was a comedy show.
Oh, a comedy show's great.
It was great.
And
really
that's
good.
like, I don't like, especially for a rock show. Theaters are amazing, obviously, and more often than not, theaters have some of the best sound, I think.
Right.
But not necessarily the best environment for rock and roll.
Right.
Sometimes you got to fight through. And sometimes they make you sit.
Yeah.
It is a theater.
When they say put your seatbelts on at a rock show, it's kind of a joke. It's not a real thing.
Right. Not there. So, but I'm sure it was a great show.
And we say that because we're recording this before the actual show happens.
Yes.
So,
okay.
Sorry.
Man, more reveals.
Yeah. Well, who else is hanging out with us today?
Big thanks to Go Services Inc.
What up?
Who do some awesome work around Alberta. They do like waste management systems for like businesses and people, like rentals, like if you're throwing a little party and you need
important infrastructural stuff. Yeah.
And our good friends at Sawback Brewing Company here in Red Deer, making some fantastic brews.
Hanging out.
Bose Bar
like
Stage.
One of those now.
Yeah.
And of course, producers Ryan and Riley here in Communal Creative Studios. We celebrated 50 episodes last week. I don't think we even mentioned it during the episode, which is pretty funny.
It's kind of a weird thing to, like, I mean, 50 is the number, but obviously we do this weekly.
Yes.
So 50 isn't 52 like the big, that's the 1 year would be 52.
Think so.
But so 50 still it.
I think 50 is
so
a
we're
pretty
celebrating
big number.
50, 100, not 104.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I don't know. I think you stick with the normal numbers of celebration.
Well,
you know
cheers to 50.
All right. Well, and this is not episode 50. This is episode 51.
Justin Benlolo from Broken Love.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness, we're in a vehicle.
Can you hear me? Yeah, I'm in a van right now, halfway across Alberta.
Are you actually? Where are you driving to today?
We're going to Banff now.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, because we're just still making it out to BC to start the tour.
And then, so you haven't played a show yet?
No, not yet. The first show is on Friday, I believe.
Okay, in Ontario?
In BC.
Geez, wow, you're all
so
over the place.
I'm coming from Toronto.
Are you in the good part of Alberta yet, or are you still in the flatlands?
No, we're still in like the prairies. Like we haven't hit the mountains yet. There's really not much to see right now. It's just a lot of grass and cows.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. We're glad we can take up a little bit of your time on the drive because that is not fun.
Yeah, no problem.
Pretty much like Winnipeg until the mountains. There's just nothing, right?
It's just flat land. I mean, I've only done this drive one time before, and everything out of Ontario until we hit like middle of Alberta kind of sucks.
Yeah.
And just let you know, I hope there might be some connection issues. I mean, I'm on the road and we're just doing this through like a laptop. It's connected to a phone, but if it cuts out, I'm sorry. I'll just come back in.
It's all good. We'll sort it out. If it gets too bad, then we'll probably just like shut down for today because we want to make sure that the quality's there for the official episode. But so far so good, I will say.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
okay, good.
And I'd say it must feel good to be back on the road again, which I know it does. But you toured it. Was it just last fall you did the run with Pop Evil? When was that?
Yeah, we did that. I guess it was last spring, across the summer into the fall. It was kind of like over the period of like 4 months, I think, sometime from like June to like October or something. So we haven't been, away for too long. And we did do a couple shows with Big Wreck and Monster Truck in Ontario about 3 months ago.
Yeah.
So these are just the rescheduled dates that we didn't get to play back in November, I think.
I have to.
So it is nice, though.
Before I forget,
go ahead.
What are we interrupting right now in the van on the road?
Nothing. It's literally just me and my tour manager. We're just driving.
Yeah, but what would you be?
There's
What would you be listening to, or is it just pure conversation? Like, what are we interrupting?
Well, right now we're listening to the hip, just very quietly. I don't know if you could hear it.
No, not at all.
We're going through Alberta. I mean, I know the hip are from Kingston, Ontario, but like, you gotta listen to some Canadian music when you're driving through Canada,
Yeah, pure Canadian.
I did a stretch. I was going the other way, but between like Winnipeg and I think Sault Ste. Marie.
Sure.
So anyways, we had the hip going nonstop because I'm the exact same way, especially when I'm going through like, some iconic Canadian territory. There's nobody better than the hip to provide a soundtrack for it.
You gotta. I mean, we put on albums. I mean, we talk a lot. Depending on who's like, once the band gets in here, we just do constant rotations of records. So we all just go in a circle, and everybody takes turns playing a full album.
Okay.
And that's generally how we do it on tour. Right now, we're just kind of easing into it. It's good. Sometimes it's hard to listen to podcasts on the road when you're with a whole bunch of guys because we all have to be into what we want to listen to.
Yeah.
And you have to be really attentive. So we don't really do that when the band's in here, but just with me and my tour manager, we could put on a podcast and just like hang out for 2-3 hours. It's a good way to kill some time.
When you're doing that circle of trust and sharing full albums when the band's in the van, has it ever gotten to a point where like an album gets voted off before
There's
it's
definitely time. There's been, you know what? We actually commit to the full album regardless.
Okay.
Sometimes somebody will take a leap and be like, I want to try this out. And it'll just get like, completely ripped apart by everybody in the van. But our thing is we have to commit to it. That's just part of the rotation. That's the rules of the game. Once it's on, you have to play the whole thing. Sometimes what we'll do is we'll make a list of every single album we'll listen to, and we'll put a thumbs down next to the ones we're just like, let's never touch that one again.
Yep.
I kind of want to see that list.
I know.
Yeah, it doesn't. We usually upload the whole list at the end of every tour just on like Instagram, just for people to see.
Yeah.
Because we listen to an insane amount of music when we're on tour. Like, it's like, I think usually at the end of every tour, it clocks in at about like 2 or 3 days straight, like full of music, like something like 60 to 70 hours worth of music gets played, which is insane.
And does your own stuff come up at all ever? Or like once you guys are on tour, it's...
I mean, we never play it. Like, we play it every night. It's we don't need to sit around and listen to it too,
But how about getting ready to go for a tour? Would you just kind of refresh and go through it again, or is it all you just don't need to?
We don't. It's funny because my band is all in New York City and I'm in Toronto. It's we kind of got into this routine of just not rehearsing at all. So we just kind of show up to the first show and just like have a little bit of sound check time and just see if it works. Usually the first 2-3 shows are like a little rough, and then we like, we sink in and everything goes smooth. But it's kind of, well, I mean, and that being said, we've been doing the same kind of set list for so long that like the show is kind of the show at this point. So we don't really need too much rehearsal. that being said, on this run, we are playing some new songs, so that's going to be fun to try. At soundcheck on Friday, I think, or Saturday. I'm not really sure. So yeah, I mean, as far as like our own music goes, no. I was just listening to our new record a second ago. Just to, you know, plug that real quick.
Yeah.
It's obviously not going to be out for a while, but I was just finalizing track listing like 30 minutes ago.
That's amazing. How are you feeling about it?
I think it's going to be great. I mean, full bias. I think it's a amazing rock record.
Just once, I would like
people are really going to enjoy it.
Just once, I'd like an artist to say, it's not the best we've done, but we needed to put something out.
You know, I'm pretty open about like when like songs or singles get picked. I'm pretty honest if people ask me like, what do you think about the song? Because like sometimes the label and the radio guys, they pick singles that I wouldn't have chose, you know. And I've said it before in interviews. People ask me about a song, but like, you know, I wouldn't have chose it, but I guess people like it, you know. Like,
yeah.
And it happens, of course. Like, I'm not an expert on the radio front, so I let them do that part. I just provide the music, and hopefully they're nice enough to actually put it out and support it. So
what can you tell us about the record? Do you have release dates?
We have I'm pretty sure the next single's coming out April 1st. So next week, we'll have a new song out. As far as I don't know what I can and can't say, to be honest with you, but I know that we are doing, we should be releasing a collection of songs sometime in May. As far as the single after the next one, I'm not sure if there's going to be another one, but we are releasing a single April 1st. So that'll be exciting. It'll be fun. It's a little bit different than what we've done before. It's a little sexier, which I think is kind of cool.
Oh, interesting.
And we will be playing it. You're going to hear us play it. I mean, we're definitely going to be playing it every night on this tour, just so that when it comes out, we're like good at it. You know, we have a couple days to just kind of mess around with it. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. We have a music video for it coming out as well. I think it'll be coming out a couple days after the single's released. And then, you know, as far as the rest of the record goes, we're still figuring out the logistics, figuring out, you know, album artwork and you know, whatever, all the conversations that go into it with singles and blah, 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 you know, but it is done. So that's the first and most important thing.
So 30 minutes ago, you finished or finalized, worked on track listing. So
yes.
When you finish that, you now have the correct order of songs on the new record?
Yeah, at least I hope. You know, I'm kind of getting sweat to get it together because right now there's issues with vinyl pressing and all this stuff. I know there's a lot of delays, so the label really wants to get it in as soon as possible so we can schedule that so we don't have to further, like, you know, push the schedule back. So I don't, you know, I finalized it now, but I know what's going to happen. In about a month, I'm going to listen back and be like, oh, shit, it should have been this way.
Can you like predict what those changes you'll want to make in a month are?
No, I mean, unfortunately, it's like this is how it goes with any artist and any release. It's like you're always going to want to change something after it's done. And that's just the unfortunate part of doing this kind of thing. It's like I've never done anything or recorded anything without, you know, at some point down the line being like, shit, I wish I could have done that. But that's kind of the beauty of it. At some point, you got to put your foot down and just be decisive and make the decision, because it's not everything has to be an existential crisis, you know. Mostly I look at it as like a little snapshot into your life at the moment. So, you know, this is just this is the period now, and then I'll be a different person in a couple months. So I don't try to worry about it, but I know that down the line, I'm probably going to worry about it.
And then did you make most of this record here in Canada and in Toronto, or?
Yeah, I did all of it in Toronto, downtown. We did it like in the peak of COVID lockdown. Like it was a disaster because we weren't really supposed to be making the record either, technically.
Right. Yeah.
Like, so it proved to be pretty difficult, especially with like, I unfortunately had to do most of the record on my own because my band couldn't even come to Canada, and then I couldn't go to the United States because my visa had run out, and then you weren't allowed to travel. Like the borders were closed. It was a whole, you know, thing that was unfortunate. We got it done, of course, through, against all odds. But yeah, I did it all downtown Toronto a couple months ago, and then I wrapped up some of the back end of it in December, and we just got like the mixes and the masters in like a week ago. So now that we're kind of going back out and shows and returning and all this kind of stuff, we got to get all of like our affairs in order.
Yeah, get organized. Very nice. Well, that's exciting.
So your band, as you mentioned, is in New York. Did you hook up with these guys right away? So you went from Toronto to New York when you were 16?
Yeah, just around then. Yeah.
And is that when you hooked up with these guys?
No, I didn't meet those guys until probably, I think, about 4 years ago. So I was about 21, I think, when I met those guys. I had bounced around a lot. Like when I went to New York, that was essentially like a soul searching thing. I was going to try to figure out what to do. And I ended up moving to LA a year later because I decided New York wasn't for me. And we did like a whole thing there, which ultimately ended up in having me come back to the East Coast because that's just where the business was. And I got signed out there and the record label was based on the East Coast. So it made no sense for me to be out there anymore. And essentially I put the band together after I had recorded the first album. So I had done it mostly on my own. And then I had two of my friends play bass and drums. And then I didn't have a band. I just had this like album and nobody to play it with. So we just kind of shopped around like the New York music scene, and my manager is such a badass, and she knew who to call. And then we knew a dude who was like in the Broadway scene, and he had all these recommendations. And then our rhythm section came to be because our bass player Nick is a Broadway bass player, and one of his best friends Russell, they grew up together and played in bands and throughout high school and whatnot. And he was like, yeah, let's get him. He's amazing. So we brought him in, and that was fantastic. And we got our guitar player Carl from the New York NYU music program. We just sent an email to one of the profs there, and he was like, you describe it, rock and roll, blah, 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 greasy, long hair, and he's like, I got the guy. And I kind of knew like right away when he walked into the audition. And yeah, we've been together ever since. It's weird to say that we've been together almost 4 years because we lost like a year and a half with COVID. So like, I still don't think of us as having been around like a while. I still think of us as like pretty novel and new. But it's been a fun ride so far. I mean, obviously we're moving on to bigger things. It's really, really cool that we get to play with like Big Wreck and Monster Truck. Like, that's insane to me. Just being a Canadian boy, like growing up and listening to those bands, and I never could imagine that I'd be able to share a stage with them.
Well, and there's obviously some similarities between your guys' setup and Big Rex, which is partly Canadian and partly American.
Yeah.
What's it like for you playing with them? Because I know anytime Big Rex come and played here, and I know Ryan, our producer, all the guys behind the scenes geek out so much when Ian Thornley is in town, right? The gearheads come out full bore and just oogle over everything he's got. So what's it like being on the road with him?
I mean, we got a little taste of that in Ontario. So much, like I wouldn't even consider it a tour because I got to go home every night. So I didn't really think of it as like anything crazy. We didn't really get to hang out with those guys too much just because we were worried about everybody was like COVID cautious and all this stuff. So we weren't really mixing a lot. But just watching that guy play every night, it just makes me like cry inside because like, I don't know how old he is, but like he probably could be my dad. And he is like the most ridiculous guitar player, singer. It's like an unfair amount of good, like I watch him and I do that because that's what I do. I play lead guitar and I sing in the band, and then I look at a guy like that who's doing this and he's like more than twice my age and he's so much better than I am that it makes me sick, and it's like, because it's like one thing to be really good at one thing, just to be like a really great guitar player. He's like insane as a singer and a guitar player, and he's an amazing songwriter, and it's just such a pleasure because he's like one of my idols. I mean, as somebody who's in the same position, like whatever, frontman, guitar player, yada yada. I always looked up to him growing up because he had like the best of both worlds, and like not a lot of people are that blessed or put enough, time and effort into being able to do that. So it's just like, I'm just in awe every night. I watch their set every night when we play with them, just because I know every song, first of all. So I'm like a genuine fan. I remember the first time I got to meet them, I was trying to act cool. I was like shaking their hands, and then within 20 seconds I broke. I was like, "Oh, guys, I just gotta be honest. I'm such a huge fan. Like, I can't do this. Like, I'm sorry. I'd have to just come clean." And I'm sure there's gonna be a little bit more of that. I don't think I'm gonna get over that for a while.
That's all right.
Yeah.
I wanted to go back to New York real quick. So you lived there for a year. You moved there very young, right? You said.
Yeah, I moved. I think 16. I dropped out of high school, so when I would have been in grade 12, I was in New York City.
You were growing up in Toronto proper?
Well, like the suburbs. I mean, I guess you guys are like Canadians, so I don't have to say Toronto. But like when I'm in the States, I just tell people I'm from Toronto because they don't know anything else, around. I grew up in Vaughan.
Okay, so you moved from
you
moved from escape from Vaughan to New York City at a very young age, and then fast forward almost 10 years, I'm assuming. 6, 7, 8.
Jeez, I guess now, yeah. Probably about 8 years. Yeah, 7, 8 years now.
So fast forward 8 years, you're now back. Your home is Toronto again.
Yes.
And you are about to go on tour with a band that's primarily based from New York. Like, why New York specifically? Why? I mean, I'm sure most bands would feel very grateful, or band leaders would feel very, privileged to have access to a stable of New York musicians for their band in Canada. But why New York?
Excuse me. It's interesting because originally my idea was like, I wanted to keep everything based in the US because I wanted to essentially have this band do most of its, activity, or like kind of be based out there, just because I know that up here you can get pigeonholed. If you might get stuck here, and that happens to so many great bands, and I didn't want to be like that. So I thought maybe if we just based it in the States, it could kind of, we could mediate that issue, and we could maybe get past that like blockade that we have up here. Also, truthfully, like my manager's based out there, the label's based out there, the agents are there. Like, I mean, American agents are like, so everything is kind of home based there. Like, if I had to go anything anyways for the label, or you name it, like I have to go down there anyways. So it's kind of just easier for me to go there than for everybody to come up here, if that makes sense.
100%.
And also, I'm signed to an American label, so it's like I'm sort of US based anyways. This is the second run we've done of Canada. We've only done one prior to this. And not for any particular reason. I think that just when our agents are looking for things, we're just because of the like this idea of us breaking in America first. I think they've just been trying to book primarily in the States. But as we've seen, and like as I've always known, like Canada loves rock. We support other Canadian bands and across the board. So I know that we always would have a home here if we wanted to. And obviously, like, it's working out because our singles do better here. We still have a bigger fan base here. Like we still do better here generally. So I'm not mad at it because I love it here, and it's like I get to like be home. It's still, even though I'm halfway across the country right now, I still feel like I belong here. Whereas in the States, sometimes I feel like quite the contrary. Especially when people, especially when they hear the way I talk sometimes, like I don't think I have an accent, but when you're in the States, people love to point out the fact that like I said a boat, and they're like, what, a boot? Oh, you know what I mean? Like, oh, you must be from Canada. And then with all the other stuff that goes on with it, but yeah, I mean, it's tough to say why we did it in New York. And like, maybe one of the reasons too, circling back, is like, I didn't have a lot of friends growing up that were willing to take the plunge with me, and do this crazy thing. Like, especially since I wanted to do it so young. I remember talking to a couple of my friends' parents, trying to convince them to let their kids drop out of high school. Like, the balls I had, I was like 15 years old, like trying to tell my friend's dad to just like essentially let his son throw everything away to gamble and try to become a famous rock star. So I understand like now how ridiculous of a sentiment that was, but at the time I was like, they're missing out. This is like, they're crazy. Like whatever. This is the time. It's right now. And I'm lucky that my parents are cool enough to just be like, yeah, do it. And like they're the absolute best, and they're nothing but supportive, and I love them to death. So they were cool enough to just let me do it. But nobody wanted to do it with me. And I get that because I was so young. So, and I'm still young, but just like coming from high school, that's such a ripe age. You want your kids to grow up and have a future. You don't want them to just throw everything away because some stoner kid was like, let's go be in a rock band and try this out.
So are you still friends?
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons.
Are you still friends with that guy?
Sure.
His dad let you come back?
Absolutely. Yeah, actually, oddly enough, he came on tour with us in Canada too, and I'm actually using some of his gear on this run.
Nice.
Like he's one of my best friends, so there's no issue at all. Now he's working in music. He's a producer now, but he went to school for it. He went to Berkeley and did like all that stuff, got the certification. So it's a little bit more of the academic route, even though it's still like music. He still got what he's still doing what he loves. At the end of the day, he just did it more, I guess, like legit or whatever.
Maybe I should find a better term for it, but that America First strategic mentality that you approach building the band with, is that advice that was given to you? Because I feel like it's a very interesting trajectory for you. At 15, you're convincing, not just you're trying to convince your friends' parents, but also yourself, I'm assuming, that it's a good idea to drop out of school and move to pursue something pretty wild. So
yeah.
I can only assume for a long time you've been obsessively thinking and strategizing your career.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, I've kind of been doing this since I was 12, which is crazy.
That is.
Like prepubescent and like, and all. And I've been really trying since that age, because I just kind of had my mind set that this is what I wanted to do. And yeah, a lot of people would tell me, because I was kind of lucky enough to have in our community where I grew up, there was a couple of people who had some success in boy bands, and some other people who had some success as like a songwriter with, a certain set of artists. And they all said the same thing to me, that, I should just try to get out of Canada.
Interesting.
If I was going to try to do this. Just in terms, because we see it happen all the time. There's so many great bands up here that are legendary that when I bring up their names in the States, they go, Tragically Hip? Like, who are they? And like, that's crazy to think up here because they're like the biggest rock band ever here, So it's like, I just didn't want to be put in that position. And no knock on trying to do it in Canada at all. That's just what I was told growing up. And I think I really internalized the information and just got it in my head that that's the way you have to do it. Now that I'm older, it's like and I actually have to worry about like my future and like, making money and stuff. Like now it's like, if anybody will take us and just like, let us have a career and we can sustain some sort of success, then I'm happy, But when I was like, dreaming really big back then, I was like, I got to do whatever it takes. And I'm still of that mindset. It's just now I'm less set in my ways. I think I'm a little less stubborn than I was when I was younger.
Well, even with, strategizing in America, like prioritizing a U.S. presence for the band, you've still got that red maple leaf on your songs on the radio charts. So
exactly.
Yeah, like it works both ways, I guess.
And that's the thing. It's like, we're like, well, I'm Canadian at the end of the day, and even though I'm signed to an American label, it's like all the music is, I write most of it, and we make it up here, and like, we'll still get the Canadian, the little Canadian flag. I don't know if people even know what
CanCon, baby.
CanCon, yeah.
We have we have rules up here.
We know what it is, but I don't know if people know what CanCon is. And it's like, we do it strategically that way because we knew that like, if America didn't happen or it's not happening, Canada would always be there in a way.
Yeah.
I feel like you can work that way, but you can't work the other way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's tough to break here first and cross over. So we were like, let's try America first. And if not, then we can go back to Canada, and we know it'll probably, take us in with open arms. but yeah, no, that's been the strategy. It's working out, I guess. I guess it's been going well, and I'm just like happy to say that I could do this. Like I get to do this, and people like you guys want to talk to me and talk about music, and I think that's really just cool. I'm really trying not to swear right now. I don't know if I'm
go for it.
Fucking say curse words.
Okay, perfect. Because I've just been like biting my tongue the entire time, trying not to let one measly fuck slip.
No, it's all good. This isn't the CBC. We're fine. We don't adhere to the CanCon rules either
right.
on the road the stage. But for listeners who are unawares, Canada has, I mean, it's there's pros and cons to the rule, but the rule is that any media platform has to, what is it, 35%.
Some stations promise 40.
Safe marker, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if you don't mind, let's get into it a little bit, because Patrick and I both come from rock radio. I'm still involved in radio. What do you think would be more beneficial? And this is an argument that goes around the radio circles all the time, is having that minimum Canadian content requirement, or switching that up and moving it to an emerging artist rule, so that you have to say play 15% newer talent.
That'd be beautiful.
Oh, wow, I've actually never thought about that. That's interesting. I mean, the emerging artist thing would just help in general, just
right.
because, then bands like ourselves and other new bands actually get a platform to stand on, because that is just such a tough thing to do these days, especially when you're doing CanCon, most of the radio is 3 Days Grace and Sum 41 and Billy Talent
and great bands, but they don't need the help, right? They don't.
Long ago established.
Yeah.
Long ago.
Absolutely, and I totally agree with that. Like, those bands dominate the radio. If I turn on rock radio at any given time, I'll hear Billy Talent like 20 times a day if I'm driving around for like 2 hours, and I just like flip through the rock stations, and that's great. They're fucking killer. We all love Billy Talent. I don't think they need to prove themselves any further, because like they're just who they are. Like, they're amazing. That would be kind of cool if we switch it to an emerging artist kind of whatever, a requirement. You have to play this many songs or whatever, this much content. That would probably just help younger bands break a little bit more, just because it's obviously becoming more and more difficult. Radio is also different too, right? Like, I mean, I guess like on the social media platforms and stuff, it's usually the younger guys that have a better grip on it and know how to utilize it a little bit better. I'm unfortunately not one of those guys, because I still feel like, even though I'm 24, I don't like. My tour manager had to help me set up the Zoom and all that stuff. Like,
thank you, TM.
So I don't really know what I'm doing on that front. But it would be nice to see that happen with just being able to give younger bands a chance. I mean, it's obviously become more and more oversaturated as the years have gone by, and with, of course, the advances in social media and YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, whatever, you name it. It's like everybody and their mother is trying to be, a big band, I guess, and amongst other things. But yeah, maybe that would help. I think that's something I can get on board with, at least. I mean, that being said, it does really benefit me that we get CanCon. So,
yeah.
So
it'd be a combination of both.
But you would have been one of those emerging artist and
tracks,
playlist, and 3
probably
or 4
still
years
would
ago.
be. I mean, I'm sure you'd have to set up the parameters. Well, what is emerging? Is it, somebody that's had a certain number of hits and then you're out? Is it a certain number of years or album? You'd have to flush things out a little bit.
That's when the bureaucracy ruins it.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Well, yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, I don't know if that'll ever happen.
Yeah, but, again, it's been talked about for a long time. And then, of course, the other question comes in, well, what do you do with all the, classic rock stations that don't play new music? You've got to have separate rules for everybody else, whereas this CanCon rule is blanketed across any format.
Mm-hmm. I do like the idea of the new rock thing too, just because another thing that I think might be problematic. I mean, I don't want to say it's I'm not knocking rock radio, but like it is just it's one of the only formats that it's still so dominated by the legends. When you turn on the radio, you put on pop and hip hop radio and whatever, it's like everything is new.
Yeah.
At least like most of it is new and fresh, and it's still like it feels like it's progressing, it's constantly moving forward. Not saying the rock isn't, but I just think that as far as the radio goes, it is just mostly everything becomes like a legacy Canadian, like a radio station at some point. I know that we get played on some stations that don't count our spins because they don't play enough new music or something for it to be considered or to impact the charts or something. I mean, I'm just happy that our music gets out there and people can hear it. You know, I mean, it's crazy to me if I turn on the radio. Sometimes I'm lucky enough to hear one of my own songs, and I'll hear like the Foo Fighters right after me. Like, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's wild.
You know. But yeah, I mean, there is something about, I don't know what to do about it, and I just, in my young perspective, I guess, like, you know, coming in, not really, you know, not having the radio as like my main source of music anymore, because we all use like Spotify now and like have CarPlay and shit and the aux cords and whatever. We kind of curate our own playlists and whatnot. There's something about that. If there was just a way to incorporate more new music on rock radio, I think that would just be so beneficial for the genre as a whole, and keep people from saying rock is dead or whatever the fuck that means, you know. Maybe that's just one of the things. I don't know. I'm not an expert. You're asking my opinion. This is what I'm just spitballing right now.
I think it's a good idea. Let's do it. Let's implement these rules now, today. Speaking of emerging new artists, is there anyone that you've got in mind of your own listening habits lately?
I love, like, there's a couple of new bands that I think are just tearing it up. Like, there's a band called Dead Poets Society that we're like label mates with, and they're so fucking good. Like, the singer Jack is one of the best voices I've heard in years. Like, he's just unbelievable. I love them. You know, I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with the Bluestones. Our friends in Cleopatra, they're obviously fucking killer. I'm just trying to think of a couple off the top of my head. You know, I'm probably going to see the boys in Royal Tusk at some point in a couple of days. I wouldn't say they're like brand new anymore, but we love those guys. There's like, I'm trying to think of a couple other that I've really been bumping. I guess I'm kind of, I've really been put on the spot, so I don't know if I can think of any more off the top of my head.
That's a pretty solid list.
That was a great list.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of guys. You know, actually, there's a couple more like Dirty Honey and Joyous Wolf and I'm blanking. But you know, that being said, I think there is like a emergence of all these new rock bands that are kind of coming up and are sort of intertwined in this new wave of rock. You know, I wouldn't say all of us sound the same. You know, some of us are more retro, some of us are a little bit more modern or whatever, grungy, whatever you want to call it. But there does seem to be this resurgence in like young rock that is kind of growing, and I'm happy to say that I think we're a part of it. You know, but just seeing my friends that are like have been around for like a year or two longer than we have, and seeing them have incredible success, just gives me hope for this next generation of rock with the younger, with new young, you know, dudes and people who just like want to try it out and maybe think that, or maybe thought it wasn't possible before. It's like when I see a band like Cleopatra in Europe right now, just playing sold out show after sold out show. Yeah. And they're the same age as me, you know, being able to do that in today's climate, like that should just light a fire under so many kids' asses and just like inspire them. If they were a little bit hesitant before, I think that we could see that, you know, rock and roll is not dead. Like, we could still do this, you know?
No, I think the proof is there.
But how can I say rock is dead if I'm traveling across the country now to go play shows for thousands of people, over the next couple of weeks?
I can't remember who it was that I heard this from at one point, but they brought up a very valid point. When you look at the, you know, the golden age of rock as, you know, Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and all those bands really tearing things up. Well, you also had bands like ABBA and Earth, Wind and Fire. They were also huge on the charts at the same time. So it's not like, you know,
the same chart though.
They would have been on the same
like blanket statement. Like,
no, they would have been on the same charts. You can look at some of those charts and see those bands, right? Because and especially, you know, you go through the 70s, they didn't have splintered charts like we do now, and everybody was all compiled into one. I wish I could remember who had pointed that out, but I'm like, you know what, you're right. Like, it's not. This isn't different than any other time period. Yeah, there's always been huge pop acts at the same time. There's been huge rock acts. Like,
but now it is splintered, so you don't have Justin competing with Taylor Swift,
right?
Yeah,
which you.
Well, I mean,
you've got that.
Oh yeah, thanks. It's just like I feel like it's one of the things you have to deal with as a rock band. Like, it's just one of the tropes of rock and roll. Rock is dead. It's just like a thing that has to exist when you're in rock. You know, I mean, they've been saying it since I thought when the Beatles were trying to get signed. Everybody was like, God, guitar bands are out. You know, like, what the hell is this? And obviously, they were extremely wrong. You know, but I don't buy it. And it's hard because I get asked that question a lot, by a lot of people. They're like, do you think rock is dead? And I'm like, I'm on the way to play for 2,000 kids tonight. Like, how could I played a festival in Florida like a couple of months ago in Daytona. We played the Daytona like Speedway or something, and there was 50,000 people there to see Bad Flower, and it's like, who are these people if rock is dead?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so like alive and well that even artists like Machine Gun Kelly are crossing over into the genre, because they kind of failed at the other one, but
100% agreed.
But, and he got booted out by like the greatest.
But he just got announced as one of the headliners for Lollapalooza today, right?
Yeah, I just saw that. He's going on tour, and all these like pop guys or whatever, hip hop, are like incorporating like pop punk elements into their music, and it's like, if anything, I think the rock is, or at least guitar music, is kind of coming back in a strong way because everybody's kind of doing it now. All these big. If my little sisters, I have 3 little sisters. If my little sisters are listening to bands with guitar again, I'm like, oh, something's happening. Because they're the ones that follow the trends and listen to what everybody else listens to, and that's their demographic. And I'm like, I think that's really good with guys like Youngblood and even with Willow Smith and MGK. Like, I wouldn't say it's something that I personally listen to, but I personally think it's good for the genre that's happening, because it's bringing more kids into this other world and maybe exposing them as like a gateway into heavier or more experimental or whatever. You're kind of cracking the surface, like almost as if like Green Day is your intro to like punk rock. Maybe you might work your way to like Black Flag at some point.
Yeah.
Which
I'm hoping is happening right now with this pop punk explosion, is that people are deciding that it's not quite heavy enough, and they keep digging.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's undoubtedly going to happen. I mean, it's interesting for us being, usually being the young band on a bill with bands that have been around for a while, and seeing how people will come to the show just to see us. We'll have our own little bunch, not a ton of people, but obviously we're piggybacking off the big bands to steal some of their fans.
Yeah.
It's cool to see the people who show up just to see us, and it's always young kids, like, and I'm like, okay, well, I thought that young people don't listen to rock anymore. I thought I was like an outlier growing up, because none of my friends listened to Led Zeppelin and Soundgarden, but it seems I seem to be proven wrong every day, and I hope I hope that I continue to be proven wrong in the long run. I don't really know where I'm going with this. I'm just rambling. We've been in the van for a long time. Yeah.
So you're okay. So you've been driving for what, like 30 plus hours at this point, I'm assuming?
Yeah, we've broken it up. We've been driving for, what did you say, Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah.
We've been driving since Saturday.
Wow.
So, yeah, and we still got like 2 more days until we get out there. And then we got to take a ferry all the way out to Sydney as well. So, we're kind of in it for a little bit. But we're going to Banff right now, so that's going to be beautiful.
And you get to chill there for the night.
Yeah, we're going to stay there for the evening. We're going to get there a little earlier, I think, than we normally get in. So, yeah, we're going to be there like late evening, and then get to hang around, maybe go like to hot springs and do all that shit.
Yeah.
So that'll be really beautiful. And then we'll probably get out to like Vancouver on Thursday, I think.
Well, and here's a really good bonus to traveling through Canada in late winter, early spring. You're probably not going to have any cockroaches found in the van at this point in time.
Oh boy. I mean, don't even get me started about the cockroaches. Like, we have had to deal with that, and it's such a nightmare. Like, we usually get them in like the deep south in the US, like when it's in like the swampier kind of climates, like in
some
Louisiana.
humidity.
And if you had them pop out while you're driving, like the one video I saw you guys had posted, it was you guys were luckily stopped, but I couldn't imagine one of those crawling across a driver while you're in transport.
Well, we were driving when we first saw it. We just turned on the camera by the time we had like kind of stopped. Like, and I was driving, and it crawled right across the front windshield, and then it crawled up and like above my head, like like on the seams over here. And I'm like, oh, this thing's gonna jump on me, and I'm gonna kill everybody. The best part was I saw that cockroach like a couple nights before. We were in somewhere in Louisiana, and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I was half asleep. I needed something for the van, and I opened up the door, and I saw like something. I didn't have my glasses on, and it like scurried off.
Good God.
I was like, huh. When I walked back into the hotel room, I was like, oh, that was a cockroach. And it didn't show its face until like a couple days later. We like gave it a ride from Louisiana to like Pennsylvania. It just like, you know, hitchhiked with us. So yeah, hopefully we don't have to deal with that. It is nice that it's a little cooler outside, so we haven't been like just mucking bugs like you know, the entire time. So the windshield's been staying clean. We are going down to the States after the Winnipeg show, April 6th. We're jumping on a tour with Bad Flower in the US. So I'm sure once we get down there, like spring will almost be like sprung, and the bugs are just gonna completely destroy the van. And mosquitoes will be out, and my allergies will be catastrophic.
Full force.
And it'll be glorious.
Sounds like something to look forward to. Who else is on that Bad Flower tour? It's you. There's one other act, right?
It's a band called 68.
Oh yeah, 68. Yeah, exactly. So good. Have you played with them before?
No, and it's funny. I didn't know who they were until I was like looking at the video, and I was like, holy shit, this is the guy from the Chariot.
Yeah.
And I had seen the Chariot a bunch of times. Like when I was in high school, I used to go down to what is now Rebel. I used to go down to a venue called Sound Academy. In Toronto, and just like mosh my brains out.
They're one of the coolest live shows ever, as far as I'm concerned.
I watched some of their like live, like in studio performance stuff on YouTube, and I sweat. I was like, oh shit. I was like, we gotta play the four of these guys, because it's pretty damn heavy, and I'm really excited to hang out with those guys. And it is cool again to like see somebody that I didn't know that this was his new band, and like, you know, kind of a fan of. So yeah, I listen to some of the music. It's really, really badass, and I think that's going to be a really great tour in itself. We kind of know the Bad Flower guys a little bit. We've hung a little bit through the years and seen each other's shows. So this is the first time we're ever doing something together. But yeah, I know there's lots to look forward to. It's going to be a great couple weeks.
Yeah, gigging. It sounds like you've got the next few months pretty jam packed, anyways.
I think so. I don't really know. I mean, we're kind of booked until like mid-June, I think.
And that must feel nice.
I'm just happy, that we get to do shit again, you know, because I mean, I fucking sat on my ass in my bedroom for like almost 2 years and just sulked. I was like, I'm never gonna do this. The shows are never coming back.
Things were going so well.
You know, I know my album got like, you know, essentially like thrown away because it came out 2 weeks before everything closed down. Like, it was such unfortunate timing, but of course, you know, I can't look back in anger. Like, it happened to everybody. So,
well, you played Red Deer like pretty much exactly a month before the shutdown.
Yeah,
I remember that. I mean, I think we started the tour in Red Deer, I believe,
with Tuscan Sights and Sounds.
Yeah. I think that was the first show of the tour, and it was funny because I remember when we showed up, half the Tusk guys were like sick as dogs, and we didn't know, nobody knew anything, you know, what was going on. But like looking back, we're like, holy shit, maybe we all kind of got like clapped on that run, but we didn't really know. And of course, like, you know, we played the last show on that tour in St. Catharines on like March 6th, and it was like NBA shut down 4 days later or something, and then that was it, you know. But hey, listen, we're back with a bang. We have new music. We're back on the road. Like, we got a fire burning inside of our bellies. Like, we just can't wait to fucking go out there and show everybody what we've been doing, you know, while we've had some downtime. So there's a lot to look forward to.
Are there any vices on the road that or you know, exciting road things that you haven't gotten to take advantage of over the last couple of years that you have so far on your drive from friggin' Toronto to Vancouver Island?
No, nothing crazy. You know, I'm trying not to party too much while I'm going out there because I gotta take care of my throat before I start the tour. But once the tour starts, I just become an animal, you know, like I just start, you know, boozing beers like every night. Like, and it's a lot of fun. But going out there, I got to be careful. I want to start strong, you know, and then it'll gloriously fall apart towards the end.
Yeah.
But you know, we got to make a first impression. We've never played Sydney, BC, so I want the West Coast to get a really good taste of us first before I blow it all to shit.
What about food? What about food? What's the go-to on the road?
I mean, right now we've been huffing it, so we haven't really been stopping to eat anything decent. It's just been shit, you know. We've just been eating like Subway.
There's another A&W.
Yeah, A&W, and we actually stopped at a Walmart yesterday and got some like yogurts and like, crackers and shit, like just like something. But once we get the tour going and we figure out the routing and stuff, like we'll figure out something. We always try to eat something around the venue, and you know, unfortunately, what happens is after the show, everybody gets hungry, and the only thing that's open after a show is like McDonald's or like Wendy's.
Yeah,
and that just becomes like pretty. It becomes a pretty common occurrence where we just eat shit food all the time, and hopefully, as we get more success, then if we are afforded the opportunity to, like, we'll be able to have catering one day.
Yeah.
You know? Big Rec has catering. I know they have catering, but I don't think we get that. So, you know, we take our buyout money and then we go eat a shitty meatball sub or something. And
I did see
it's amazing.
You did have a tweet about Mr. Sub the other day, right? I think I
did.
Made a claim that it's I don't remember if you said it was underrated or maybe the greatest in Canada, which, you know, sucks because you can't really find it anymore, right? It's pretty
You really
tough.
only find it around where we are in Ontario. Like, I haven't seen one of them since we've left Ontario.
I think there's one left in Calgary.
Have you guys gone through Calgary yet?
No, we're actually going to go through Calgary, I think, in like an hour.
So you should. I'm assuming you're on the Trans-Canada?
We are on the Trans-Canada.
Is there a Mr. Sub?
There's a Mr. Sub on the Trans-Canada it's just just west of the Deerfoot.
Oh, okay.
There's on the left-hand side. So if you remember, if you go past the major highway that runs in Calgary, it's probably about a mile.
And why do you know this?
It's the same thing. We were coming out of a concert one time, and my kid was all like, "Dad, there's a Mr. Sub." I'm like, "When the hell have you ever had?"
Yeah.
But there was all the rage, and everybody that was in the truck with us was like, "Yeah."
Man, I would eat Mr. Sub all the time if it was an option.
Well, it's just so much fresher than Subway. I don't give a shit what anybody says. Like, Subway, before I started touring, a couple of my buddies that had already been like seasoned veterans were like, "Get ready, you love Subway."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Subway? Like, what the fuck?" Like, there's only like 3 in my community at home. Like, I don't see them anywhere. I didn't know it was the most prevalent like fast food place, like at least in America or Canada or something. So they're everywhere. We'll be driving in the middle of buttfuck nowhere for 3 hours, and there'll just be like a Subway on, like in the middle of the desert, you know? And I'm so sick of it. It was actually after our tour with Tusk that I'd eaten so much Subway, I didn't touch it for, I think, until like a couple days ago. I think was the first time I had Subway since that tour.
Yeah, it's nice to go on. I went on a full 10-year no Subway. I don't want to touch it. It was great. It was beautiful.
There goes the Subway endorsement.
Okay, so one more thing. So you've been driving since, you said Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Very little access to proper nourishment. You are looking forward to spending some quality chill time in Banff tonight. What are you going to eat in Banff? You finally have time. You finally have opportunity, access to more than what we've just been talking about.
I think we got a reservation at a nice Greek restaurant.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. We have to eat something decent, man, because we just get fucked up, man. Our stomachs get all fucked, and then we're in the van all day, and then it's just like a disaster. So I think we booked a reservation. We booked a reservation, right? Yeah, we did. We booked a reservation at a I gotta check, because I don't know anything. We booked a reservation at a Greek place, and yeah, because it's always, you don't get anything like exotic. You always get the same shit like when you're on the road. It's just burgers and fries and sandwiches. You never get like a nice like falafel or something like that,
or a very robust salad.
Oh yeah, I love that shit. We just never get anything. Oh, well, now we're going for like an actual place because we've been stopping in like little towns where the population is like 2,000 people, so there's not much.
Yeah.
You know, and everything's so expensive, which is like insane. We're in the little towns. It's like $1.99 for gas. I mean, gas is ridiculous right now, anyways. But like we crossed in Alberta, and I was like, whoa, $1.50. We don't even need gas. Let's fill up anyways, you know?
Yeah, and which is high, very high for us.
Yeah, it's super high for us.
Yeah, I mean, which is insane. I mean, like it's before we left in Toronto, it was like, oh my god. I mean, it costs double the price now to fill up my van, but whatever. It's the cost of business. What can I do?
Yep.
You know. But it's nice. I'm in Alberta now, and like everything's like it's a little cheaper out here, so I'm not too upset about that.
We had Cadence Weapon on the show last year, and he made a good point about waiting until he got to Alberta to buy his new MacBook, because everything's a little cheaper.
I buy a lot of gear out here. Like if I'm ever here, I always buy my guitar pedals and whatever.
Oh, okay. Just
because like when you see the price, it's like the tax adds like $3 more. I'm like, oh shit, this is great, you know. But yeah, I always make a conscious decision that this is the place to do it if I'm going to buy anything that's like expensive. Right now, there's no things yet though. We got to play some shows, make some money.
Yeah.
Then we'll see if I could treat myself to something nice in a week or so.
Well, it'll be perfect because you will be here in Alberta.
That's right.
Oh yeah.
Once again.
Yes, we will.
Okay, so I got two things before we let you go.
Sure.
The one that we haven't really touched on too much yet is your voice is absolutely amazing. There's that scene in the tour documentary that you guys have where you're in this big empty room, huge hall, and you let out this massive scream that just fills up and reverberates. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. You discovered your voice before leaving school doing school plays.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
I want to know, what plays were you in?
I think the first play I ever did was maybe Wizard of Oz. And I was a scarecrow in the Wizard of Oz.
Nice.
And I've done a bunch. I did Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, or Willy Wonka and the Chocolate. I don't even know what the correct one is. I was Grandpa Joe.
Nice. Just laying in bed all day.
I played Hook with a Peter Pan. I was Hook. I was Scar in Lion King.
Oh wow.
I'm always the bad guys. I was Marius in Les Miserables. I think that's how you say it, Les Miserables.
Yeah.
Les Miserables. I don't know. I can't speak French.
Les Mis works.
Les Mis. I was also in. Oh man, I did High School Musical.
Nice.
I was Troy Bolton, High School Musical. I was Danny Zuko in Grease.
Where were you? What school was this?
Wow.
This was like, it wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't an art school. It was just like a public school. But
just a Vaughan public school?
Yeah, it was just public school. And one of our, they used to bring in this director who's actually, we know him. Like he's like a part of our community at home. And he would like his whole business. He does like plays and writes like condensed versions of the scripts or whatever, like revises it and goes around to schools and summer camps and all this stuff and does these plays with kids. And he would come in every year at school, and there'd be the time, if you want to do the play, you got to audition and this, that, and the other. And like coincidentally, I just kept getting lead roles, and that's kind of when I figured out, I was like, oh, maybe I could sing. Or like, after the performances, because obviously there'd be an immense like amount of like rehearsals, because it's a bunch of kids, like you have to reel us in. Everybody's like, everybody's got too much energy, and one kid's like freaking out in the corner, and then one kid is like just screaming, like, you have to keep the kids on a leash. And we would do the show nights, and every time I got on stage, I felt like this high, I was like, ooh, I kind of like when everybody's looking at me, I also felt like I was like a little bit more serious about it than the rest of the kids that were doing it.
Right.
I like took it more seriously just because like I don't know, I really enjoyed it.
Just a true drama kid.
Yeah, and it's true. Like I was kind of that kid, and And people would always come up to my parents after, like, oh, your son has a really nice voice and this and that, you know. And that's when I figured I could sing high, you know, because I was like, oh, I could, you know, I mean, I didn't realize like how to push your voice or whatever, but I figured it out when I was doing these musicals. And I'm thankful for it because it made me kind of comfortable on stage in front of people at a really young age. Of course, I was like a little arrogant about it at the time. You know, I was up there like I was like a hot shot because I could sing in front of people and like whatever. And that was until puberty hit me and my voice, you know, I sounded like
nice
fucking nails on a chalkboard for like 2 years. But yeah, I was somewhat of a drama kid. I didn't end up pursuing that throughout high school. I actually tried out for the music program and I didn't get in.
Wow.
In my high school.
What did you try out on though?
I tried out for the arts program and I tried out for vocal actually.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't get into the program, which is funny enough because like now I'm like a professional singer, which is insane, you know. but at the time it was interesting because like I didn't know why I didn't get. I found it very discouraging because I was like I thought I could sing and this whatever, and I think it ended up being something that like I didn't have the like the attitude, you know, that they were looking for. Like I was still like a burnout, like stoner kid, you know what I mean, in high school. I was just like smoking way too much weed and listening to Led Zeppelin. And like, that's all I wanted to do. And I don't think I was like the right fit for the arts program. And I can understand that because I was a shit student, you know, I didn't show up to any of my classes. Like I was just like fucking around a little too much. But looking back at it, I sometimes I'm like, man, I want to write a letter to my teacher and be like, look at me now.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, totally. It definitely inspired.
The ego in me says I should do it, but that's not nice. I can't be that guy.
Just do it. Just checking in. How are you doing? Just wondering if you've seen the news. Just that's a fine approach. What was your second question, Pete?
And then you slide them the copy of the live album you did with Desmond Child. So my question, I tried to look and tried to find the connection, but how the fuck do you get hooked up with Desmond Child?
Wow, that's I love that you did the research because that's awesome. I met Desmond, let's see, probably about 6 or 7 years ago now as well. I met him through I had this mentor who kind of guided me through everything from when I was like 14 until I was about 20. And he is a very successful songwriter in the business, and that's kind of his gig. And obviously Desmond is a very successful songwriter in the business. And their paths crossed a lot of times. You know, they're both Nashville guys, and obviously Desmond's not a country guy. My guy was more of a country dude. But their paths had crossed enough to the point where, like, you know, we did something and he was like, oh, you know, because he knew that I had been such a fan of Desmond's and I'd grown up listening to so many songs that he'd written. I remember being 12, 13 years old and being really into like 80s glam metal and always Wikipediaing like the records and always seeing his name, you know, producer or writer on everything. Desmond Child's name was everywhere. So I just knew this guy to be this legend. And I remember I'd always bring it up and he was like, yeah, I'll just call him and we'll see if we can like make something happen. And lo and behold, I remember he came to LA when I was living out there, and he liked my voice because we had sent him some like demos and stuff. And he just asked me to do like a charity event with him in Beverly Hills. And I'd never met him before. And we did this thing and I sang, you know, I sang like an Aerosmith song with him and I sang a Bon Jovi song with him, like, which is insane. And it wasn't too long after where he like had started asking me to sing on things for his artists. Maybe he had a thing he was working on and he needed backing vocals, so he'd ask me to do it. And eventually he had the idea that he wanted to make a show out of all these huge hits that he had written over the years. And he was like, I guess he thought that I could do it, which is insane because he probably could have just asked the guys that do it, you know what I mean? Like, but he asked me, which is unbelievable. And I've sort of been part of his his band or his like, I guess I'd be part of his band for a while now. And I do these one-off shows with him every once in a while, and we do all the hits. And it's very, very nerve-wracking gig for me, because it's like I'm singing songs obviously aren't my own, so I have to make him happy because he wrote the songs, and then I also have to make the people happy that are used to hearing it a certain way, you know. So I always get very nervous when I do it, but he's been nothing but supportive and just like the greatest. I couldn't ask for a better, like, I guess, like, you know, I mean, maybe a boss in that sense, where I'm in his band sometimes. We are actually doing a gig together in June in Greece.
Whoa.
Yeah, we're playing at the Acropolis, and it's going to be insane. I'm going to be playing with Alice Cooper. I'm going to be playing with I think Bonnie Raitt or Bonnie Tyler. Which one sings what's it, Eclipse of the Heart? What's it called?
Yeah, Bonnie Tyler.
Bonnie Tyler. Bonnie Tyler's going to be there. Rita Wilson's going to be there. I think Paul Stanley might be there. Orianthe's playing guitar. Like, this is like, I'm shitting my pants, you know, because like I can't imagine standing behind Alice Cooper when he's singing Poison and I'm just playing guitar. Like, that's going to be insane. I try not to think about it, because it actually, every time I think about it, it makes me sweat, and then I wake up in the middle of the night like nervous about it. But it's amazing that he's, you know, afforded me this opportunity, and I'm like the young guy on the gig, so I'm trying not to step on anybody's toes, because everybody in his band is like an absolute legend.
Yeah. And
I'm just like this kid that he was cool enough to ask to sing some stuff in his show. And yeah, it's been a couple of years that we've, I guess, been working together, and you know, he kind of, you know, just calls me up whenever he needs me to do something, and I'm just here for it, because like it's not every day you get to work with a guy of that status. And he's brought me to some cool places. He actually had me, I didn't induct him, but I performed at his induction to the ASCAP Songwriters Hall of Fame a couple of years ago, and in which I had to sing a Aerosmith song. So I sang "Dude Looks Like a Lady," then I sang "You Could Love a Bad Name," Bon Jovi, and then I sang "I Was Made for Loving You," Kiss, in front of everybody, like in front of Paul Stanley, in front of Richie Sambora. Like, it was insane. Like, Lana Del Rey was there, Max Martin was there, like the Chainsmokers were there, Portugal the Band was there. It was the craziest thing I could ever imagine, because Paul Stanley's like, you know, Kiss is one of the reasons I do this. I love Kiss, and probably they're the reason it kind of kicked everything off for me. And I remember I had to sing "I Was Made for Loving You," and then look over at side stage and be like, "Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Stanley," you know? And that was insane. And that, you know, he brought me there, and I don't understand why he asked me to do it and why he continues to call me back, but I'm nothing short of grateful. And it's just it's been an insane experience. So it's cool that you bring that up.
Well,
not a lot of people know that I'm doing that.
I've heard those performances, so it's pretty easy to see why he brings you out for it. And I think what we do is
thank you very much.
We take this last 5 minutes segment of this podcast and we send it to that school, and that's your fuck you to those that wouldn't let you into the program, because you've done okay, son. You've done okay.
Thank you very much.
We should also probably leave it on the topic that is waking him up at night, making you sweat, right? That show in Greece in June.
Yeah.
Oh, buddy. That is I mean, when I saw the hit list of like all the songs you have to do and then who's showing up that I have to play with, I'm like, how the fuck did I end up here? Like,
am I actually going to Greece, or is this a Zoom concert?
Like,
I would have had one of those moments.
And I don't mean like, how did I end up here in like a bad way? You know, I'm like, how did I end up here? Like, how is life afforded me the good grace to like be in this position? Like, this is insane. And one thing, like, I have to constantly remind myself that he wouldn't ask me to do it if he didn't think I was like on the level and I could like do that with them. And he, like, if he didn't treat me as an equal, he probably wouldn't have me there or see me as an equal, should I say? But at the same time, I'm like, nah, that's gotta be bullshit, man. This is like a charity case. Like, he knows I'm a huge fan. Like, he's gotta be like throwing me a bone. Like, it's a hard toss up in my mind just because it seems so unreal to me. On that front, like with my own band, it's one thing because if I fuck up my own gig, I could stand behind that. It's my own gig, you know. If I fuck up his gig, it'll break me in half because like that's on somebody else's dime, and just like I'm supposed to be giving them like providing a service that he's expecting from me, and yeah, that's nerve-wracking. It's definitely fucking scary. And it's only in like 2 months. Yeah. I think it's sometime in May or June or something.
Yeah, you got other shows to worry about in the meantime.
You got nothing to worry about.
Refocus.
You're good. Nothing to worry about.
That's what I figured. I'm like, let me get these ones out of the way, and then we'll kind of pick it up, and I'll start freaking out about those once these shows are done.
Just focus on that Mr. Sub that's got to be about a half an hour out now.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm gonna talk to my TM about it, and I think we might go hit that spot. I think it sounds lovely right now.
There are also definitely better alternatives, but I'm just saying.
Whatever.
All right, Justin, thank you so much for hanging out, and we're looking forward to seeing you in these parts in just a few days.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, guys.
Awesome. Safe trip the rest of the way.
All right. Thank you. We'll see you in a week or so.
Peace, dude.
Peace.
All right. Bye, guys.
How familiar are you with Desmond Child? Do you know? I did a
quick search. You
probably didn't know much about Desmond Child, whereas the music that he was listening to at 23 is the stuff I grew up on. And right. I remember going through all of those albums, Slippery and Wet and Pump and Permanent Vacation, and Desmond Child's name was attached to just about everything.
Yeah, it's funny. When I was going through our notes the day or two before our interview, I saw you had written his name on the notes. I was like, who is this guy? Yeah. I searched up, and it is a very impressive and long list.
Which is something that, we haven't really gotten into with anybody, and I don't know that all artists or musicians really want to peel back the curtain far.
The songwriting process?
But there's oftentimes the people that you think are writing those songs have some help.
Yeah.
And there are some big-time songwriters that you probably will never know their name or never hear their name.
Help.
Yeah.
No, it's still, and I mean, in years of radio experience, you far more than me. I mean, you got to admit, there's been plenty of artists that we've talked to that don't write a lot of music.
Right.
They perform it.
Right. And again, that's not I think we're treading around the waters of that being a bad thing, but it's not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with it at all whatsoever.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So, and then to be able to go, so Justin, that I can't wait to see the shots from Greece. I couldn't imagine the nerves.
Yeah.
Of
that show in Greece sounds really heavy duty, like really heavy duty.
Yeah. And I mean,
nervous for him.
I think it seems like he's a pretty wicked guitar player, but having Orianthe, right there as part of that thing. I'm looking forward to
that'll be fun.
That out.
He'll get his nerves over soon.
Have you ever had we were talking about cockroaches crawling through the van. Have you ever had a bug come flying out of nowhere while you're driving?
Not while I'm driving. No, I don't.
Are you creeped out by him? Is there anything that
I definitely don't love bugs. I mean, the thought of cockroaches is fucking disgusting, and I can't say I've ever encountered one, thankfully. But I don't know, like a wasp flying around in the car.
Probably the biggest one. Sure.
Yeah, but I don't think I'll like react to it in such that I will hurt myself or those around me. You know what I mean?
Good.
You know what I mean? Why are you don't like bugs?
It's not. No, I'm okay.
You sent me a picture of a spider once. I still haven't looked at.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I've had a spider drop down right in front of me.
I don't
want to
see that shit.
And that's been okay. Honestly, that's probably one of the biggest fears with my daughter. Is she is so freaked out by bugs.
Yeah. Well,
have I ever showed the video of her and the moth?
I don't know.
I will do that at some point.
Maybe
it's the best.
We'll
But
put
anyways,
it up on the YouTube channel.
That's one of my biggest fears is what happens because she would not handle it well.
Yeah, cockroaches. No, I'm good. Thanks. That was too much for me.
The cockroach did not.
Disgusting.
The cockroach did not live to freak out another van.
Well, you know who doesn't freak me out? Our friends.
We've got a lot of them.
We do. Well, one of us does, and it's not me. Bo's Bar and Stage, baby. Home of many a show over the next little while or long while.
Go Services Inc. loves the shit out of you so much so that at some point you are getting your own porta potty.
Well,
it hasn't happened yet, but it's gonna happen.
I will live in it. Let me know so I can end my new lease, my new apartment I'll move into the porta potty instead.
And a big thanks to Sawback Brewing Company here in Red Deer as well, making
excellent
delicious
beer.
brews. Yes.
Excellent beer. And producers Ryan and Riley working hard as usual in the Communal Creative Studios, of which there's the actual physical space, the studio, and then there's the digital space, the virtual space, aka the Communal Creative Studios YouTube channel, where you can watch and like every single episode of The Road to Stage.
It's just a little click.
And then subscribe to the channel.
Subscribe. Click it.
How's that sound?
And we'll continue to do this and maybe have something else for people to watch next
Wednesday.
The Road to Stage is produced by Ryan Cooley and Riley Sur-Yin at the Communal Creative Studios in Red Deer, Alberta. In partnership with Go Services Inc., Sawback Brewing Co., Tourism Red Deer, and Bo's Bar and Stage.